Hi guys, it's Lisa. Today we're gonna do a spoiler-free review of A Book of Night by Holly Black. So, Book of Night is the adult fantasy new release of this author who is famous from the Cruel Prince trilogy. I was really excited to get into this book because I really liked from Holly Black how she is able to create characters that are very compelling, that are dark, that are cunning, and these environments that are as well very interesting. And well, are things as I expected? Not really, but it wasn't bad. For me, it was 4 stars. I will break this down on the world building, if it is a character, plot driven story, a little bit on the tropes, and then I will conclude with why I liked it and why it isn't as good for me. So, starting with the world building as well as the magic. I think this is the most compelling element from the book, really. It's a story that it could be created from B.E. Schwab.
It isn't as dark as any of Schwab's books.
But it has this feeling. Our main character is working as a bartender, and she is kind of like laying low because she did a lot of bad things, it seems, in the past, and she has been dealing a little bit into the dark magic. And so the main elements that we will see, it's kind of like this city, like there's a lot going on in this bar, there's also a lot going on, like in the houses, in the street. It's very urban fantasy in that vibe. It's a very detective-esque. So our main point of view will kind of like try to discover something. And the most interesting thing for me was the magic. It's a hard magic system in which magic is done through the managing of the shadows. And so in this world, it seems that there's some people that it's able to work with their shadows or to modify others' shadows. So it can be that you are acting as a puppeteer using your shadow to do stuff for you, killing people, like, and trying to do other stuff. It might also be that you are modifying your shadow in order to make others feel stuff, and it also can be that your shadow, it can change you, right? You can add wings to your shadow, and so then you can fly. This magic, it's fed through blood, and so that's kind of like another element that it's slightly dark, and that was kind of like interesting as well, because it's not something that it comes for free completely. It has kind of like its consequences, but that's kind of it. Like, not everyone has access to it, and it's a little bit unclear, or I won't spoil how you can access to this magic, but of course there's people that it's kind of like training, right? And they want to be this alchemist of their shadows. And then the book was very plot driven, I'd say. It's not necessarily action packed, but we don't have as much depth to the characters as I would say to consider this a character driven story. There are some points within the story where we have flashbacks to the story of our main character Charlie when she was little, which definitely adds to understanding a little bit better the character. But at the same time, it wasn't super fulfilling for me. This detective-esque point to it, though, was really interesting, and I was compelled to keep reading. It's relatively short, kind of like 300 pages or so, and it has a lot. There's a lot packed within that, a lot of all of this magic, the motivations, they're kind of like different gangs of people also in this city. So there's a lot going on. In terms of tropes, it isn't as clear. Like, yeah, we have this main character that it's supposed to be kind of like doing very wrong stuff, like she is always making bad decisions, but at the end of the day we know how she will kind of like save the day. So it's kind of like that vibe. There's a slight romance into the story, definitely not the main point to it, and it doesn't really read really adult. It doesn't really have any complex world building, I thought, or any element that is like, no, this is for adults only. Then going for the things that I really liked from the story, I really liked the shadow magic. It reminded me a little bit to this Savage song by B.E. Schwab. The shadow can become something, and this is the aftermath of that, right? Like you can see people that it's awakening their shadow. So that was kind of like,
Uh-huh. Now I will have a look at people on the streets.
and I also really like the dynamics between the two sisters. It reminded me a lot to the dynamics between Bai and Powder from Arcane at the beginning of the story, of course. The bigger sister needs to take care of the smaller sister and, you know, do some sacrifices, try to be good for her. It has this, and that was something that I really like.
The plot I liked fine.
I really read this really quickly because it's short and because, you know, you really want to know what is happening and you get some piece of the puzzle, and you need to advance and you try to figure this out before the main character, and that it's also fine. But then going into why it wasn't a 5 stars for me, and not even close, mainly these flashbacks to get more context from the main character got old real quick. For me, it was like, okay, I understood. Like, it wasn't adding much to the character under my point of view, and so it was like, yes, it's fine, now I know that, but
Did I need that all that information? No. No, I don't think so.
then something that really got me was that you'll see throughout the book, like thousands of times, that our character makes bad decisions. But it's more that the book it's telling you, because you don't see it. Really, you don't see it. Like the decisions that she made wasn't that bad for me, which made me think if I was the one doing not as good decisions. You know, it's this point in which you were told something, but you don't read it, you don't see the character doing that. And then I also was expecting this to be a lot more darker, and this main character to be way more grey and to be a little bit more savage. To be honest, I thought that The Cruel Prince was actually more savage than this book. So,
Well,
maybe it's also that my expectations weren't properly set. Rounding this up, it's a story that it's fun to read. I think that now that we have the world building, book 2 will be kind of like even better. And you have this ending that it's not a cliffhanger, but it's definitely something that I believe matched perfectly this story. I buddy read this with Jess from Honest Fiction and we had a lot of fun discussing it. I'm also having some discussions with Courtney from the book Nook Corner, and also a lot of fun. It wasn't kind of like the read of the year, not even the read of the month, but you never know. If this sounds fun to you, take it and have a look at it. And yeah, that was it for today. I really hope you like this spoiler-free review. Let me know down below in the comments what are your thoughts, if you're already picking this up, if you're planning to, and I really hope to see you soon in other videos. Bye! Happy reading!